Louisiana. It is pretty far north of Hammond, but we're talking straight up I-55 from all of those other towns. This happened at Smitty Supply, which is a petroleum manufacturer up on the North Shore, a pretty large facility that has many tanks full of different kinds of chemicals, which are what you see exploding right there. We've heard from witnesses that there have been a series of explosions there as that fire continues to burn at this hour. Again, schools in the area have been evacuated. The Tangipahoa school system has sent buses to evacuate kids from Roseland Elementary School. There's a high school in that area, in that evacuation zone, that has been evacuated. We're getting more information minute by minute into the newsroom, and Meg Ferris is joining us now live from Tangipahoa Parish for the very latest on what she's hearing from officials now that she's out at the scene. Meg, what can you tell us?
Yes, Katie. So we are 2 miles from the smoke plume. Let me step out of the way and let you see. You can see it. The black smoke is still just billowing up from the scene. Like I said, again, 2 miles away. You can hear all sorts of fire and law enforcement coming to the scene. Now, we are told so far that there are no injuries, and as you said earlier, it happened at Smitty's, and Smitty's is a manufacturing place that basically takes big tanks of chemicals and puts them into smaller containers. Let me name some of the things that you buy probably every day. The JB Weld and 3M tape and Rain-X and Fix-A-Flat, Krylon rather, paint, Shell motor oil, Pennzoil, Quaker State oil. All these types of engine cleaners, motor oil, fluids that they take from big tanks and they put into smaller bottles that we buy and use for dozens and dozens of companies. So what is speculated here after I talked to police is that maybe it could have been lightning. Right now, lightning is popping and it's about to rain again. Lightning could have hit one of these tanks or more of the tanks. But the reason why they've evacuated is, I'm told, it's not a chemical problem that they're concerned about right now for residents in the area. What they're concerned about is the risk of more explosions and fire. And they're worried that debris would be flying in the air if more tanks explode. So that's the concern, that flying metal debris would land on people, land on houses, and that's why they've evacuated 1 mile radius. So that is what we're seeing here right now on the scene. Excuse me. Again, there have not been any injuries reported, which is good news. But the whole area where we are, 2 miles, is blocked off. So, Katie, that's what we have here. We're still gathering more information.
Yeah, Meg, have you heard any explosions since you've been at the scene? We did hear from some witnesses that those were continuing to happen throughout the afternoon, or at least the last couple of hours since this first started.
I have not, but hold on. Ma'am, are you a resident here? I am. Have you heard explosions? Will you come talk to me, please? We're live on the air. What is your name?
My name is Gilda.
Gilda, what did you, I'm turning you this way so we can see you. What did you turn toward me? What did you hear?
Well, just a lot of explosion going on. I actually came from work. My mom called me because she goes to the counseling on aging, and they was busy dropping the clients off, and they just hold just a big explosion. And I have a friend that lives in Independence, and even heard the explosion waiting Independence. So I came to this subdivision here to pick up my mom, because as you can smell, the fumes are very heavy out here. My mom is 82 years old, and I definitely can't allow her to just be in this environment. So I came to get her and snatch her out. But it's just such a horrible time for the city of Roseland. I'm asking everyone for your prayers for the city of Roseland. They are going to definitely need your prayers, and definitely for a lot of people that has been impacted. From my understanding, even firefighters have been maybe impacted and hurt. So the city of Roseland, we're just asking for everybody to just come together and band together and just pray for our city at this time.
How far is Independence from where the explosion is from Smitty's?
Independence, it's maybe about 7 minutes away from here. Only 7 minutes away from here. And then to hear it way from Independence, that's pretty loud.
A lot of times you can feel the outflow from an explosion. Did your mother feel the vibrations?
She did. She did. She did. And when she called me, I came. I got off of work. They allowed me to get off of work to come here and get my mom. So it's just a tough time. You know, Smitty's is is the biggest company out here in the city of Roseland. So just much prayers for the town of Roseland.
Do you have any idea about how many people work at Smitty's?
I do not know how many people work at Smitty's, but it's a lot of people that work at Smitty's. They're a big company, a very big company for this town.
How's your mom?
She is fine. She is
a little
fine.
scared?
Yeah, she called me very shaken up saying, oh, we need to get out of here. And I know when I pulled up, just coming into the town of Amite, you can see a lot of the fumes and things and just coming here. I mean, just the smell of everything that's in the air, you know.
And to your point about coming to get your mom, I did talk to some residents who say that there are a lot of senior citizens, there are a lot of people who maybe don't own a car or are handicapped and can't get out. So just like your mother, she needs you to get out. Yeah. Are there a lot of other residents like that?
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of residents. My mom lives over here in this development over here, and it is a development that is full of senior citizens. And when I looked, I seen a lot of family members coming to get their families as well.
Okay.
So, but this is a neighborhood that actually bands together for the sake of the community.
What is the name of this neighborhood?
The name of this is called Shady Grove Loop.
Okay.
Shady Grove Loop.
And
yes.
Are we in Roseland yet, or is Roseland still a couple of miles up?
Roseland is maybe just a couple of miles up.
Not there yet,
Yes,
almost.
Not there
okay.
yet. Okay. But soon as you go around the curve, that's Roseland.
That's Roseland.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And best to you and your mom.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to talk to us. So there you hear from a resident. I saw the alert that was sent out on the phone to residents, warning them about what had happened. And I did start hearing from viewers around here who said, what do we do with people who can't get out? Now, just to be clear, we are 2 miles away from it, and that has not been officially evacuated yet. A 1 mile radius has been evacuated, and not again because Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Department tells us it's not because there are chemicals that are raining down on people or that they have to avoid breathing. It's because they're worried about explosions sending debris in the air and the debris falling on people and on houses. So that's what they've told us so far. They said that teams were still in assessing exactly what had exploded, what tanks had exploded. I got the impression that there are train tanker cars there where they pour what comes off of that into big tanks and then put it into smaller bottles to sell at retail, to sell at like the big box home type stores. So that's what we know right now. Again, as you can see, it is still billowing, still smoke. It doesn't look like it's slowing down. In fact, the plume looks like it's even getting bigger, Katie.
Yeah, it does seem like a very serious situation continuing to unfold there, Meg. We know you're going to go talk to more residents for us and get all the information that we need. So thank you, Meg, for that report. And, we're continuing to follow this breaking news situation. Again, if you're just joining us out of Roseland, there has been an explosion, multiple explosions out of a petroleum manufacturing plant there. This is Smitty's United. This is a place that is right in the Arcola Roseland area, which is south of Amite, north of the city of Hammond, over in Tangipahoa Parish. Right now, as you can see, this is some footage that was taken a little while ago, but not that long ago. This fire is still burning. We saw additional fire crews coming in behind Meg just moments ago as she was doing that live report for us on the highway there. So we know additional crews are being called in to try and get this thing out, because as you can see from the sky there, from literally miles around, there is still a huge column of thick black smoke in that area. Now, Meg also talked to one of the residents there, and we're hearing this from witnesses too, who have been at the scene this afternoon, that they are hearing multiple explosions. One could assume that is from the different tanks exploding that you were seeing on your screen there, that as those additional tanks are getting caught in that intense heat and flames from that fire that's burning, that the chemicals are burning there, that they're continuing to explode. So again, evacuation zone a mile around the Smitty's manufacturing facility up in Tangipahoa Parish. Now, we also know from Tangipahoa schools that there are some schools in that evacuation zone. Among them is Amite Elementary School, Roseland Elementary School rather. That has been evacuated. The Tangipahoa school system apparently sent buses in to get kids out quickly, and they've taken them to the headquarters of the Tangipahoa school system, which actually is in Amite. For parents who may be looking to figure out where their kids are, if their kids are in these evacuation zones. We want to go back over to Meg Ferris. Apparently she's got some more information for us to bring us the very latest from the scene. So Meg, more residents there with you?
Yeah. Yes. This lady, tell me your name, please.
My name is Deatrice.
And Deatrice, you live right here, right?
Yes, I do.
Tell me what you heard.
Okay, at the time, I was at the gas station when it happened, getting gas.
How close is that to Smitty?
It's right there.
Okay.
It's right there. So we were getting gas, and then that's when we heard the boom. At the time, it was like, get somewhere safe or whatever. We kind of sit for a minute because you can see the fire. I didn't know if we need to come back this way or which way to go, but you can hear the tanks just blowing. Bam, bam.
Oh, so you heard more than one.
Yeah.
About how many?
At the time, about 7 at that time. But they were telling us to move, so we were able to get on that main street to get on the interstate. We had to go all the way back around just to get back home. So
Did you feel the explosion?
You can hear the, you can. Yeah, because I was kind of like taking out my phone and filming it, but what was going on because it was right there.
Yeah. Do you know anyone who works at that plant?
My son know a couple of people that does work there.
We understand they're all okay. Is that what you're hearing?
That's what we last heard, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That no injuries.
Yeah. When we last talked, everybody was fine.
Was there a storm in the area with lightning when the explosion happened?
No, it was just like, it wasn't even like this. It was kind of like, not even this cloudy.
Okay, because the lightning's kind of popping over
now
there.
it is, but it wasn't like that at first.
It wasn't?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, and what else? Have you heard anything else? Have you?
So far, like I said, my son did check on everybody that he know that worked there, and everybody was fine. But that was the last thing we know, because I was just like, I pray that everybody made it out. So
this is a big economic driver in this area. Do you know about, either of y'all know about how many people work there?
I don't know. Would you know? Because it's a lot.
It's probably about 700 or 800 people work there.
A lot.
Who work at that plant?
Yes, my husband used to work there as well. Yeah.
What did your husband do there?
He was he worked in the line, which is like the little part where it don't have air in there and it's kind of hot and things in there. So so he used to work there.
Filling all the different chemicals and different products in the different bottles for the different.
Yeah, that's what he did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this community depends on. This is the biggest company here.
It is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
What else are you hearing? Anything from other employees?
Not just like I said. My son, he did. One employee, he did made it out. Only thing I think at the time she was saying she wasn't sure if everybody made it, but last he checked that they were that last he heard. Yeah.
And these big tanks on site, have you seen them? Are they the tanker cars on a train, or are they big storage tanks
They're
like you'd see at a
big
refinery?
Storage tank, and they're like lined up, and you can hear them like boom, boom. That's how they. And yeah.
Big, huge tanks you'd see at an oil refinery type thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Well,
Well,
I'm just glad that we was able to make it back because we had to wait to get on the interstate to come back come around to get back home.
okay. Do you plan on evacuating?
I'm hearing that we possibly may have to, but if we do, we will.
Okay.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Good luck to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, so Katie, you heard from a resident who lives right here, right at the roadblock, the latest from her, and saying that this is a big economic driver of this community. A lot of people depend on working there. So I do not have information yet on how much of the plant is involved in this fire, but once the fire's out, it is unclear right now. Will part of this plant be able to open, or will the whole thing be shut down for a while? So that's still being assessed, and as soon as we get that information, we'll get that to you.
Yeah,
Katie?
that'll be significant for sure for that community there, Meg. I can tell you from looking at the drone videos that we've gotten into the newsroom that it is a significant portion of that facility that's on fire right now, and additional tanks around what's currently burning building look to be at risk. There is a small fire station when you look at a map that appears to be located on site. I would assume that that's a requirement for a facility like this to have a fire station there. However, this fire, from what you can see on your screen right now, is much too large for one small fire department to handle. We saw just a few moments ago live on the air more units from fire departments around the area, around Tangipahoa Parish likely, possibly from beyond that area, are coming in to try and help get this situation under control. This drone shot from a man named Chris Owens up in Tangipahoa Parish gives us an even better view of just sort of the vastness of this situation. Now you can see that one section of tanks there on your screen right now appear to be on fire. That is where we heard those explosions coming earlier. But if you look to the bottom of your screen, toward the bottom there, it appears that the fire has almost crossed into that second section of tanks. It's kind of hard to tell from what this drone video shows, but the more that it spreads, the more likely that we'll hear continued explosions out of this situation that is unfolding as we speak up in Tangipahoa Parish. Again, they're taking a look at that huge black cloud of smoke and flames that has been shooting into the sky from Smitty's, which is a facility that, is one of many apparently owned by this same company. I'm taking a look at their website, Smitty's Incorporated. It shows that they do own a facility in the Hammond area, which this is pretty far north of Hammond. Also shows that they own a facility in Vicksburg, Mississippi, an additional facility in Texas as well. So Jasper, Texas. Apparently this company has been around for quite some time, since 1969. So it's a well-established business in the oil field. It's considered in the oil field, I would think, because of the lubricants and things that are involved. And as Meg mentioned, what they do is they take different products and they put them into smaller bottles. At least that's what we understand so far. Many of those products involving automotive parts, things that are used to lubricate engine parts, things like that, which obviously are very flammable if they end up in a situation like this. Now, that video that you were just taking a look at a few minutes ago, you could see almost something that's raining down from the sky there in this area. The Tangipahoa Sheriff's Office said that they weren't necessarily concerned about the chemicals in the air, but they were concerned about debris falling on people as explosions continue to happen. So it's unclear if they do have this fire contained to one section of that facility at this point, or if they're still worried about it spreading to other tanks. If it did spread to other tanks, you would assume that those could also explode, which explains the evacuation zone that we're seeing right now. 1 mile around the plant so far. Meg has been pushed back 2 miles away from the site, away from that thick column of black smoke, but it certainly looks enormous even from her vantage point 2 miles away. You can see some of the emergency crews that are in this area and at the scene in this live picture, also from the highway there. This is near Highway 10, near Arcola. And again, this is the Smitty's facility that is up in Tangipahoa Parish. It is on fire at this point. There has been an evacuation that's happened. Schools were let out early. The Tangipahoa school system sent buses in to get students from at least, we know, Roseland Elementary School out, and took those students to the headquarters of Tangipahoa Schools, which is actually in Amite. So if anybody's looking for their kids, that could be where they are if they were at Roseland Elementary School, assuming that parents were all notified by some sort of emergency alert system once this explosion happened. And we're hearing that that may have actually happened and that this fire may have started around 12:45 this afternoon. That's what we're hearing from witnesses. And then additional explosions have allegedly been happening this afternoon as we've continued to follow this situation. We do want to bring in Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin if we can, because we want to talk to him about the winds right now. That's usually a concern when we're in situations like this. So Chris, what are we looking at in terms of wind speed and the possibility that this could spread?
The way the winds are at the moment overall are almost light and variable. So very, very light winds. They kind of change direction in a short period of time, almost kind of an instant. They may change 3 miles from the north and then 5 miles an hour from the south. So the winds don't look to be too much of an issue. What could be an issue is if we get later into the day and we start to see more, or later into the next couple of hours, we start to see more of these type of thunderstorms fire up. Now we have some. Here's Amite, just in the kind of almost center of the screen there, and then we have some bigger storms that are off over northern or central Washington, central and northern Washington Parish. Did have some heavier downpours with these. Didn't look like it was causing too many outflow boundaries. What those are when you get that initial downburst of heavy rainfall, the air that is associated with the thunderstorm actually is forced down to the surface, and it spreads out in a circle, and you get suddenly gusty winds even miles away from where the thunderstorm is. Didn't really see too many of those with those storms over Franklinton. If we had had one of those outflow boundaries, well, one, we'd be able to see it on radar, and two, if it was moving in the direction of Roseland and Arcola, you could all of a sudden get a wind gust of 30 miles an hour coming from the east. So then that would be spreading that debris more toward I-55, because again, the area that we're talking about is right along here, US Highway 51. North of Amite, you have Roseland, which is about here, and then Arcola is right at this intersection of 51, and then this road here that is running horizontal is Highway 10. So that business, Smitty's, is right at that intersection. So it's actually very easy to find. And we were talking about when the explosion occurred. I wanted to go back here to a visible satellite. It keeps jumping on me. Going to a visible satellite here. At around that time, notice we started to see an increase in cloud cover. There's Arcola right at the center of the screen. And if this occurred at around 12:45, depending upon exactly how high into the atmosphere that smoke was able to get, our visible satellite likely would have seen it. But notice at that time, we started to see more cloud cover already moving in. And as you heard a couple of reports that from folks that were in the Roseland area at that time, it was actually had some sunshine around, and that is verified on our visible satellite that we really didn't see the clouds increase until after 12:45, going into the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and now 3 o'clock hour, where we do have mostly cloudy skies over that area at the moment. So obviously with the cloud cover, it's going to be mixed in with the smoke. We cannot see that on our visible satellite. And sometimes as well, you can see that on radar, because the radar site, remember, is in Hammond. So kind of going back in time here on radar, we'll see if we can find any of that kind of indications are, and it could be that little spot right there that you see kind of popping up on radar at about 12 and then 1 going into around 101. It could be rain. It could also be the smoke or even debris coming in from the fire. And actually we can do this. I could go to our debris signature and go back in time. And I know this is kind of a more complicated looking graphic here, but when you find those concentrations, I know when you see kind of a multi-pixelated range of colors, that's just nothing. When you start to see pockets of red is when, or excuse me, going from a white to a deep blue is indication of debris in the air. And notice there aren't really indications of significant debris. Normally we would use this to verify a tornado. You do start to see a little bit more whites to blues. If you look up at the legend here at the top of the screen, again, kind of that multi-color pixelation is showing no debris, but when it starts to transition to a white to then almost gray and deep blue, it does indicate some debris in the air. So it's possible that our radar is picking up on some of that debris in the air over the Arcola area. This is called our debris signature. It's a product on the radar that's not always perfect, and usually it only is indicating when we have kind of obvious debris from a tornado. But if this explosion was large enough and if the debris was large enough, you would be able to see that on radar, not jumping out at me. So hopefully the debris that was lifted aloft into the air was was minor compared to the explosion itself. This is an updated look at radar. We do have a fairly heavy thunderstorm, fairly heavy shower, I should say, just to the east of Roseland and Arcola. You've got some light rainfall there at the moment. Moment ago, we had a few lightning strikes, but at least when I was showing you the satellite as well as radar from the time of the explosion, there were no thunderstorms around and there was no lightning. Obviously, you can get lightning well removed from a thunderstorm, but there was no lightning associated around Arcola at that 12:45 or so time frame. So it doesn't appear as though this was caused by a lightning strike, which, you know, that is certainly possible. And I'm sure folks were kind of maybe thinking that is a possibility at some of these chemical plants with a lightning strike, but it doesn't look like that was the case. At the moment, some light rain around there, probably not kicking up the winds at all. Again, as far as the winds go, obviously we do not have a weather station at Roseland or at Arcola, but nearby wind observations, Macomb north at 8 miles an hour and actually no wind at the moment in Hammond. So the winds at least are fairly light, so that should not allow for the debris to spread very far. Now, something to consider, these are winds at the surface. As you get a little bit higher into the atmosphere, what we call aloft, your winds do increase a bit, but there really are no indications that the winds aloft are very strong, even in kind of the lower levels of just above the surface, where that would spread the debris very, very far. As you heard earlier, the evacuation area was within a 1 mile radius that may have been extended to 2, or at least that's where our Meg Ferris was sent, at least 2 miles away from the chemical plant. It doesn't look like winds are going to be a major factor in spreading that debris. As we've been reporting, it's not a concern of a chemical per se in the air and spreading. It's that debris spreading out away from the explosion site that have prompted officials to limit the area around now about a 2 mile radius from Arcola and just to the north of Roseland.
That is really interesting to take a look at that debris field. I mean, it's interesting when you guys can do that with tornadoes, but to be able to see an explosion, any debris that might have come from it is really fascinating that we can do that on the radar.
And again, Arcola is fairly close. Our radar site was moved from Slidell to Hammond, so the radar is fairly close to where the explosion occurred. And even at what we call reflectivity, when we're showing you just rain, this is able to sometimes, we were chatting with some of our news folks, that we can see traffic on elevated roads. It looked like there was a shower that popped up on the causeway, and I said, no, that's just the traffic. And somebody thought I was joking, and I said, no, radar is able to detect traffic at certain conditions on the elevated road. So we can actually see cars, not individual cars, but it will pick it up as if it's rain on the causeway, on the Highway 11, the twin span. And so with the radar that close to Arcola, it would, if this had been large enough to actually see that explosion, or at least see some semblance of what would look like rain popping up. And again, around that time, you do start to see a little blip on the radar. And again, it's possible that was light rain, but it's also possible that this is the moment the radar depicted that debris and the explosion in the air.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. We'll have to wait and see exactly what caused this explosion to start. Again, Chris saying, excuse me, it's not likely that it was lightning, but clearly something caused that whole facility to ignite. So very serious situation there, Chris. And you're saying, that, again, the winds are okay?
Winds, again, we don't have a station at Arcola or Roseland. We're relying on wind observations from nearby. And in Hammond, just to the south of that, they're dead calm. Just to the north in Macomb, winds are fairly light, 8 miles an hour. Notice you have to go down to the southwest to find Gonzales, light 7 miles an hour. Slidell, Bogalusa, all reporting non-existent winds either. So the winds on the North Shore at the moment, unless you're within a thunderstorm, are pretty calm at the moment. So that should hopefully limit the spread of the debris. Of course, that could change. We do have some thunderstorms in the vicinity, and that could easily change, especially if one of these thunderstorms moves toward Arcola and Roseland. Right now, the closest thunderstorm activity is off, the strongest thunderstorm activity is off to the east over Franklinton, but we do have a few thunderstorms that have popped up in St. Helena, almost Livingston Parish, it doesn't look like these are very strong. So probably not getting very gusty winds with these storms that are just to the west of I-55, right across the parish line in St. Helena.
There are contaminants in the air, however, those showers could be helpful.
Absolutely. If they got a heavy downpour over that, that would help to settle all of that, whatever size debris is lifted aloft in the air. This would help to settle it down to the surface. So yeah, actually getting a thunderstorm or some heavy rain over the area would not be a bad thing.
Okay, well, that is good to know. And just to recap, for anyone who's just joining us out there, we're breaking into regular programming because there is an evacuation order in place near the town of Roseland in Tangipahoa Parish at this hour, a 1-mile radius around the Smitty's supply facility there near Roseland, south of Amite, north of Hammond. You can see right there along Highway 51. That's where this facility is located. It is a petroleum manufacturing facility. They make lubricants that are branded under a number of different names, and it has grown in size over the years. Apparently, Smitty's Supply was founded in 1969, according to the company's website. So this is a facility that started exploding at around 12:45 this afternoon. That's the first time that we've heard from witnesses they heard any explosions at the site. And from that point forward, Tangipahoa government issued an evacuation order for a mile around the plant, ordering anyone in that area to get out as quickly as possible. They were concerned not necessarily with the chemicals in the air, they're more concerned with debris and what may have come from the actual explosion itself and the possibility of additional explosions. If you look at this video real quick on your screen right now, it almost appears as though it's raining, but it doesn't. We don't think that it actually is, that may actually be some of the contaminants in the air. Chris Franklin, our chief meteorologist, telling me he thinks that that's actually debris coming from this explosion. Obviously, that's a cause for concern for residents. Whether or not it's toxic to people is unclear,
right,
but it still is a cause for concern for people out there. And that, again, is likely why the Tangipahoa Sheriff's Office has issued this evacuation around that area. We also know that fire can actually travel in debris and cause fires to spread that way. So that's what happens with wildfires, which we don't really see that often here. But when little embers and sparks can fly off of something that's on fire, it can cause additional fires. And so I think that's another cause for concern for officials, as the Tangipahoa Emergency Operations Center has been keeping a very close eye on the situation there. We are starting to get reaction from different officials, both into our newsroom and online. And we're hearing from our partners over at NOLA.com that Governor John Bel Edwards actually may live in the evacuation zone. Tyler Bridges tweeting this afternoon that John Bel Edwards told him he is in the evacuation area. They live less than a mile from that plant, so his house may be one of the ones that is surrounding that plant in the wooded areas there. He does live in the evacuation zone, so Tyler Bridges from our partners at NOLA.com reporting that Governor John Bel Edwards himself may be affected by this situation. So he, of course, comes from Tangipahoa Parish. He was a longtime politico from that area. Of course, his brother also used to be the sheriff in Tangipahoa Parish, so strong ties there in Tangi for that family. And he, as we're hearing reported from Tyler Bridges, may actually be impacted. We're also, again, you can see there, Tyler also reporting that Governor Jeff Landry says that he's monitoring the situation and continuing to watch things to see how this is handled and, the gravity of the situation. Now, Meg Ferris was out there. She's out there for us. She's been talking to residents who are in that evacuation zone, or even those who live just outside of it. And what she was telling us a little while ago is that many residents really did start hearing and feeling those explosions. What she was hearing from them is that hundreds of people may be employed at this facility. And so any loss to this facility would also be a great loss to Tangipahoa Parish in the form of jobs, an economic driver, and things like that. So that is, of course, likely weighing heavy on the hearts of many people there as well. This is video from a little while ago from one of our viewers. Betty Spearman sent this in to us in our newsroom. You can see the emergency crews just rushing to the site right after this happened. And, we came on the air for you all to let you know what was going on out there because, of course, there are many homes and even schools that are in that evacuation zone. So Tangipahoa Sheriff's Office, Tangipahoa government, ordering an evacuation shortly after 2 o'clock this afternoon is when we first started to hear about it, but mandatory evacuation around this thick black cloud of smoke. It's just towering into the sky there. Officials have actually kept our crews 2 miles away from this facility in the manufacturing site that is now on fire. But this is a massive tower of smoke in the area. And again, you can even see from this video on your screen right now that there is something that's falling from that column of smoke. You can see a little bit of debris or something from that massive column of smoke. So you would think that that is what Tangipahoa officials are concerned about. At around 12:45 is when the first explosions were reported in this area. Of course, again, it is in the Roseland Arcola area of Tangipahoa Parish, which is just south of Amite and north of Hammond. It's pretty far north of Hammond, so unclear if residents in Hammond are actually being can see anything. But you know, definitely the areas in Arcola and in Roseland affected. Now let's take a live look out there once again. So much smoke coming from this facility. It almost looks like it's merging. I can't tell if that's smoke or clouds to the right of the screen. But a huge column of smoke, even from a 2 mile away vantage point. So that's how big this column of smoke is, and that's how serious the situation is at this hour, and that's why, again, we're breaking into regular programming to bring you this information. Now, what we've been able to discover about the town of Roseland is that about 1,100 people live in that area, so we're talking about 1,100 homes, not homes, but residents who've been evacuated. Additionally, a number of schools were still in session when these explosions started happening, according to witnesses, around 12:45 this afternoon. So Roseland Elementary School, we know for sure, was evacuated. I believe there's a high school that is somewhat close to this area as well. It's unclear whether or not that was actually evacuated too, but Tangipahoa's school system actually sent buses in from headquarters to get the students out quickly and apparently took them to the Tangipahoa school headquarters. So if you're still trying to figure out where your kids might be, hopefully everyone has been reunited with their children at this point. And of course, we also hope that they had used some sort of emergency alert system to let everyone know that they were actually evacuating Roseland Elementary School because of this situation that is serious at this time. Now, what we have heard, which is really good news, is that there have been no injuries. Now, this new drone video is just into our newsroom, and you can see, wow, look at what's burning there. This is from Chris Owens, drone pilot in Tangi, and you can get a real bird's eye view there. So the good news is, earlier from a different shot, it looked like the fire may have spread to a different section of tanks, those storage tanks that are up there. But from this vantage point, it does not look like any other sections of storage tanks have ignited. Now, you can see that there are some of the tanks there and the flames coming out from underneath them. You can also see on your screen right now in this drone video that's just incredible from Chris Owens up in Tangipahoa Parish. Right now you can see the firefighters just putting a hose on it. They clearly have like a tower sprayer that's going in there to try and get those flames down to stop the spread of this fire. Now, if you look to the right, you can see where those flames are kind of creeping off to the right. And so, you know, you would think that they're trying to really just get this thing contained so that they can get a handle on it. Again, lots of other additional tanks that are not on fire at the facility. So hopefully they're able to, you know, really contain it and keep it to where you're seeing it right now. But if you're just joining us, this is a massive fire that is burning at a petroleum manufacturing facility on the North Shore. This is in Tangipahoa Parish this afternoon. This is a facility called Smitty Supply that is in the Roseland area. And because of this fire that is just towering into the sky, there has been a 1 mile radius evacuated around this site to keep residents safe there. So people in the town of Roseland and Arcola, Those residents are, being evacuated. Schools that were in that area were evacuated. We're hearing now from Meg Ferris that we are expecting to hear from officials at 4 o'clock, so just under 20 minutes, to find out the latest on what's going on there, what they're doing to fight this fire, and whether or not they need to expand that evacuation zone at any points. Now, our crews have been held back about 2 miles from the site for safety reasons, I would assume. So, we do have 2 crews that are headed to the scene and to kind of cover this situation for us. Meg Ferris is already at the scene. She was giving us a great report from residents there. At this point, we're hearing from her that there, again, are not chemical concerns about what's coming out of this fire, but it's more a debris concern and a concern about, the possibility that fire could spread. Police cars out there, Meg is telling me. Police cars covered in soot from this thing. And in some of the videos that we got right after this happened, you can almost see, it looks like it's raining on the videos. You can see this ash kind of coming out of the sky. It looks like rain, but Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin told us there really was no rain in the area at that time when the videos were first taken and when this explosion first happened. So sounds like it's unlikely that a lightning strike may have been to blame for this. We're going to have to, of course, wait until we hear what the official cause is from investigators. They will, I'm sure, be looking into that, probably already are, as this situation continues to unfold. Very dangerous situation in Tangipahoa Parish this afternoon. We are getting some more information, from our crews who are at the scene. Still no injuries reported, which is really kind of miraculous when you think about how significant this fire is, and just, I would imagine, how hot it's burning, and the fact that we've heard repeated explosions from witnesses have actually happened there. So the fact that there haven't been any injuries reported is almost miraculous. State police are telling our crews at this hour, we're hearing from them at the scene, that they need to get back even further. This is a 2-mile radius. They've been held back 2 miles, but the evacuation zone that we heard from Tangipahoa officials was 1 mile. So obviously some continued concerns there about public safety, about the safety of our crews, about the safety of residents, about the safety of children who were in school at the time that this facility exploded. Just from looking at the company's website, I do know that this company was founded in 1969. They have 3 different locations, 2 of them in Louisiana, an additional one over in Texas. They basically just started as an automotive supply store, selling automotive supplies, then increased and grew and started selling additional materials as their company grew. We're hearing from Meg Ferris that the state police are kicking them out of the neutral ground site that they were. They said they were forcing them to move from that location where they had a vantage point of this smoke column that's towering into the air. There is soot on the police cars that are all in that area. Those that Meg is seeing are 2 miles away from this site. So heavy soot falling from this site as much as 2 miles away from the plant. So that does tell you that there is some significant debris that's coming out of this towering fire that's happening at Smitty's Supply up on the North Shore in Tangipahoa Parish at this hour. Now, the good news that we have heard is that there's not a lot of wind right now. So Chris, Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin is with me in the studio. And Chris, you said still not that much wind, even though we are seeing some shower activity around there?
No, I'm kind of looking at some surface charts right now and trying to get a little bit better analysis of what's happening in, again, an area where we don't necessarily have a lot of data at that site, but at least in surrounding areas, we are not showing any strong winds. Really, the only time we would get any kind of a gusty wind with this would be if we have a nearby thunderstorm and you get kind of a little quick gust front to move on through. And I have not seen that. We had some heavier thunderstorms that are over the Franklinton area. Didn't show any signs of a gust front moving toward. Winds have increased a little bit at Hammond since the last time we were with you. They were calm now at 5 miles an hour. So the winds are not very strong and we shouldn't really see much movement. Again, you're going to see some, but not a lot of movement from the debris. And really depends on the size. If it's very, very small, what we were looking at in one of the videos that looked almost like light rain, that may be more easily moved in these lighter winds. Any larger debris would likely more so likely fall faster to the ground and not really be influenced by the winds as much. But we have had rain around that area. Something Katie had mentioned is that while wildfires are not, or you know, very common in southeast Louisiana, all you need is a hot ember or even kind of something that may be on fire moving into a very dry area. Thankfully, we have had over the last couple of days some fairly decent rainfall, so most of the vegetation and surrounding areas are pretty wet in that area. And just since earlier this morning, we've had rainfall all up across much of the North Shore, and that does include around the Amite area. So kind of zooming in, that thunderstorm that I thought might kick up some little gust fronts, you know, again with the kind of outflow with the initial downpour, you get that colder air that's aloft that's sent down to the surface from the initially falling rain. That wind spreads out away from the center of the storm, and you can get winds gusting up to 30 plus miles an hour. Never did see that over Amite. Also had some thunderstorm activity that was in parts of St. Helena Parish just to the west, and also didn't really see any gust fronts from that either. Looks like maybe some light rain around the Roseland area right now. Thankfully, no lightning. A little bit of light rain, even a heavier rain is not a bad thing because, you know, again, while you don't want to have any of these pollutants in the air or on the ground, better to have them trapped down at the ground. And if we do get some heavier rain, that would help to settle any debris still left aloft down to the ground. Plus, it is going to help out with fighting this fire. Now, again, chemical fires, you know, I'm not going to venture into the science of firefighting, but you know, water is not always the best option for a chemical fire. Sometimes you need some kind of fire retardant. I'm not going to get into that because I don't know, but certainly around the Arcola area, they are getting some light sprinkles, nothing particularly heavy at the moment. And again, where we are talking about that Smitty supply is directly at the intersection of US 51, so that's right here at the center of the screen, and the intersection of LA 10. Basically, this right here on radar is Smitty, so we can exactly show you precisely where that explosion was and is still an ongoing fire, and where we're getting rainfall. Again, just a few light sprinkles of showers at the moment. We have not really particularly seen anything heavy, and as far as the winds go, they have remained fairly light. Since we've been first talking about this explosion, we've been looking at the winds and kind of the weather conditions around that area. They remain fairly light, and hopefully will continue to be so. What actually would be beneficial is if we could get some heavier rain to kind of settle any of that debris.
Yeah, that would be nice. You know, if firefighters could use any helping hand that they could get from the weather. You know, it looks like a pretty serious situation there. Huge tower of black smoke up and billowing into the air there in Tangipahoa Parish at Smitty's Supply. And we're continuing to follow this breaking news. If you're just joining us here on WWLTV or WWL Plus, there is a serious situation where Smitty's Supply, a petroleum manufacturing facility that supplies lubricants and things that are used for automotive reasons, many of them, lots of machine lubricants and engine lubricants that are manufactured there. There is a massive fire that is burning at that location. Many explosions reported throughout the afternoon, the first of which we're hearing from witnesses happened at around 12:45. So, you know, it has been a very dangerous situation that started right around that time. That's when we started to get these videos that are eyewitness videos from Betty Spearman. She sent these into our newsroom, and you can see emergency crews rushing into the site at that point. And then she also sent us this incredible video right at the site of that towering fire as those several explosions that we've heard reported from witnesses were happening throughout the afternoon. So you can see also in this video that Betty sent us, either that's ash or some sort of debris that's flying from this site. Looks like it's falling like rain, but that's not rain. At least Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin is telling me there was no rain on the radar at that point. So that has to be ash and debris falling from this huge column of black smoke burning from this petroleum manufacturing facility that's called Smitty's Supply It is right there near Roseland, just a little bit north of Roseland, in a town that's even smaller than Roseland called Arcola. But this facility has apparently caught fire at this location, leading to a 1-mile evacuation zone that has been issued around that site. Tangipahoa officials sent out emergency text alerts and emails to residents that right around 2 o'clock this afternoon, asking for them to evacuate immediately. At that point, Tangipahoa schools sent school buses in to those schools that were affected in the area. We know at least Roseland Elementary School was evacuated by bus. The children were taken to the Tangipahoa Schools headquarters up in Amite. Now, we do know that there is going to be a briefing from emergency officials. We're expecting that to happen at around 4 o'clock this afternoon. That is going to be happening at the Florida Parish's fairgrounds up in Amite. We will, of course, have a crew there to bring it to you live as they report the very latest on what's happening with this very difficult situation up there. You can see from this drone video that we got from Tangipahoa resident Chris Owens. He shot this not that long ago. I would say probably about 20 to 30 minutes ago. And you can see that tower hose that is shooting water onto the site. In situations like this, typically, and I can't say for sure that this is happening, I'm speculating here, but typically in situations like this, firefighters want to contain the fire into a specific area in order to prevent it from causing further explosions. That just makes sense. But you can see that that's kind of what it looks like they're doing there with that tower hose that they have spraying on the site. You know, firefighters obviously can't get too close to it either because this is a very dangerous situation. There are many, many more tanks that you can see from this drone footage that could potentially catch fire if they do have flammable materials in them. So that's a big question mark. But in this drone video, you can even see that what looks like rainfall, but it's just apparently not. It's debris and ash falling from this fire. Meg Ferris, one of our reporters, is out, along the highway out there. She's, where there were a bunch of police cars, and she said that you can see soot all over the police cars, and she's 2 miles away from where this column of smoke originates. So that is a huge debris field, and you can assume that's why Tangipahoa officials have ordered that mandatory evacuation for 1 mile around this Smitty supply facility that is right there where Highway 51, US Highway 51, and Louisiana Highway 10 intersect. It's almost right at the intersection of those two highways where you're seeing this fire burning. This has been a very difficult situation because everyone kind of had to scramble and get their residents out. Our reporters there at the scene talked to some people who had elderly relatives who live in the small neighborhoods that are around there, and they had to go pick up their relatives because it's not like they have an easy way to get them out of there. They can't just hop on a bus to get out. So other residents from around Tangipahoa and the surrounding communities have had to go in and get their relatives out who weren't able to get themselves out. So it's been quite an operation, and it's been quite a scramble in order to get residents out of that area, students out of the schools, people away from this area as this tower of black smoke continues to burn at Smitty Supply in Tangipahoa Parish. Just to recap a little bit, Tangipahoa officials have said that they're not as concerned about chemicals in the air. You would assume that they know exactly what's contained in this facility and what chemicals are burning right now. But they're saying they're not concerned about chemicals being in the air. They're concerned about debris being in the air, being kicked off from that massive cloud of smoke, that massive tower of smoke, and affecting people who are on the ground and in that 1 mile evacuation zone. 12:45 is when we heard the first explosions reported from witnesses in that area. And then we started to hear more reports coming in as we were starting to get videos and just firsthand accounts of exactly what has transpired out there. There is a small fire station, we think, on site. You would think that that would be required for a facility that is this large, that holds that many flammable materials. But there is a small fire station on site. But this cloud of smoke, what you're looking at on your screen right now, is obviously too large for just one small fire department to handle. When we went out to Meg Ferris a little while ago, we actually saw additional fire crews getting, barreling in to try and help the situation. So more and more emergency officials are headed to the scene as this continues to unfold. Now, again, we're expecting to hear from Tangipahoa officials, emergency officials, possibly state police, all the different law enforcement agencies who are involved. That news conference is set to begin at 4 o'clock this afternoon. It is expected to happen at the Florida Parish's Fairgrounds, which is, of course, north of here in the town of Amite. So this is just a little bit south of Amite. It's pretty far north of Hammond, which is also in Tangipahoa Parish, but that's really the biggest city in Tangipahoa that people have to use as a reference point. So if you go straight north from Hammond on the map to up to Amite, you hit Roseland and Arcola on the way, and you can see that on a map whenever you take a look at that. This fire is burning in that area, so we're expected to hear exactly what's going on with emergency crews and to hear more about the firefight, number one, and number two, this evacuation zone and how long firefighters and crews expect for this to last. I mean, this right now has been happening since 12:45 this afternoon. That's when this fire started burning. So we're going into 3 hours of a very intense and large fire at this petroleum manufacturing facility. So 3 hours we are at in this emergency. We know, again, just to recap, if you're just joining us, that an elementary school has been evacuated in that area. Roseland Elementary School has been evacuated. We don't know if there are more schools that also are under an evacuation order in that area. Of course, those would have been dismissed at this point, but there are after-school activities and things like that. So this afternoon, at least Roseland Elementary School was evacuated by Tangipahoa officials. They brought buses in to get the schools out quickly. So, as soon as they got those word that they needed to evacuate, Tangipahoa officials and the school headquarters started busing those students out and taking them to the Amite location of the Tangipahoa Schools headquarters. Just to recap, if you're just joining us, no one injured in this fire, which is amazing news considering how large it is and how long it's been burning, and the fact that we've heard repeated explosions at this site. The site, again, is on your screen if you look at this map where U.S. Highway 51 and Louisiana Highway 10 meet. Smitty Supply is you can see it, kind of on the satellite imagery that's contained in this map, but Smitty Supply is a pretty large petroleum manufacturing facility that is housed right there at that location. We're hearing from residents and things that, this location is a big employer in Tangipahoa Parish. One of the people that we talked to said he estimated that as many as 700 people may work at this site. Now, that's not confirmed by the company, so we're not sure if that's true or not, but one of the residents who said that he had family who worked at the site said that, this is a very large employer in that area. What we know from Smitty's website is that this is a facility that has multiple locations. The company has a site, 2 locations in Louisiana, one of them here in the Roseland area, one elsewhere in Louisiana, and a third location in Texas. But this has been a company that has been in Louisiana, since 1969 is when the website says. This was founded by a man with the last name of Smith, but people called him Smitty, so they named the company Smitty Supply because everybody, that's what everybody knew him as. And apparently he started by selling automotive products out of essentially like a car and then a warehouse, and his business just kind of grew from there to having 3 locations and 3 large facilities like you're seeing right now on your screen, unfortunately on fire right now, burning a huge column of smoke in the air. And, this situation has been unfolding throughout the afternoon. So we know that there is a 1-mile evacuation zone that has been issued around this facility. We're waiting on officials who are expected to hold a news conference in just the next few moments. They're expected to hold that news conference in the Florida Parish's Fairgrounds location up in Amite, which is just a little ways away from where this fire is burning. Amite would be outside the evacuation zone. It's pretty far. not really far, but it's far enough away from this site so that people should be out of danger in that area as they have emergency crews kind of converging on a headquarters there. Our crews had actually been moved back a little bit. We were 2 miles away from the plant, and state police moved in, actually asked our crew to move back even further. So farther, there, is a real concern for the debris that is in the air. Officials have told us that they're not necessarily concerned about chemicals in the air, but they're concerned about the debris that's falling. And you can see that from some of the home videos that we've gotten from people and eyewitness accounts, eyewitness videos that have come into our newsroom and that we're seeing all over social media as well. This column of smoke is huge, so many people have a good vantage point of it.
Yeah, let me jump in right now, Katie. I have just spoke to my family, and most people who do know that my family is in Tangipahoa Parish. I've been on FaceTime with my aunts and my grandmother who do live in Amite and in Roseland, Louisiana. Most of my aunts are at my grandmother's home in Amite, leaving from Roseland so that they can be to safety. But I asked them what they were experiencing in the area. They told me on the phone that while they didn't necessarily hear the explosion, they said they thought they heard thunder, and that could have been the explosion, but apparently there was some thunder that was in the area. They saw a number of ambulances, police officers, sheriff's departments, sheriff's deputies rushing towards the area. They said from where their vantage point is, they're on Bennett Road. From their vantage point, you see a large plume of smoke in the area. I asked them if they went outside and if they could see anything. They said if you stand outside, you can see that plume of smoke, but you don't see anything necessarily showering down on them right now. Now, that is the case that they're worried about, because when you talk about Smitty's, and this is just coming from our partners at the Times-Picayune New Orleans Advocate, they have 20 separate tank farms, those tank farms that you see right here on the screen that are being hosed down. They have 265 steel or plastic above ground storage units, and these tanks, they hold between 2,000 and 504,000 gallons of various but generally flammable liquids. But this is according to a 2023 state regulatory report. Again, that is from our partners at the Times-Picayune New Orleans Advocate. Some of those tanks, as you can see right there, they're outdoors. Some are inside warehouses, stormwater plans show. And Smitty's officials did tell DEQ that the facility storage tanks, they typically hold things like ethanol, charcoal, lighter fluid, gas, oil mixture, motor oil, lubricants, and hydraulic fluids, diesel, brake fluid, grease, and a variety of unnamed water-based chemicals. That, again, that is all according to that DEQ report, and hopefully we're working to get our hands on that. That is from 2023. They said that none of the materials were considered hazardous, while they are considered flammable. And so you worry about situations like this where you see those flames in those areas, and if you know that you have tanks full of things that are flammable, obviously this could spread and come to a more serious situation. So far, we don't know necessarily what happened that led to this explosion, but again, this explosion, if you've been in the Tangipahoa area, and my family, I'm glad they're doing okay, and the Roseland area and the Amite area,